Welcome everybody to another episode of Steel and Whiskey. Once again, I forgot to check what episode number we're at, so we'll call this episode with Idea Statica. So, special guest with me here today, I have Dave Eckroat with Idea Statica. Dave, you want to give us a little introduction? What's your role with Idea Statica? Who are you? What do you do? All that good stuff. So
Sure. So I mean, I've been with Idea Statica now for about 2.5 years, and my role is basically director for the U.S. office. So when I came on board, I started up the U.S. office for us. Started out as one person and kind of have built the team up now. We're up to about seven people now. But really just kind of everything from, sales, marketing. I just kind of handle everything for us here in the States. So a little bit different role for me. As far as my background, I spent about 10 years in design. From that, moved into structural engineering software with Ram and Bentley for about 8 years. From that, moved on to SidePlate. Worked for SidePlate for about 8 years in my tech. So definitely not your typical structural engineer career, but definitely focused on steel, which has been, that's my design career was all kinds of steel buildings, and kind of just really enjoyed it and have kind of just kept moving down the path, like different roles. So
yeah, okay, very good. So, good introduction. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about your path and your experience, and we'll discuss Idea Statica along the way here a bit. And a lot of people are probably wondering, like, well, why does SDS2 have Idea Statica on the podcast? What's the relationship there? We'll have those discussions as we go here. But
okay.
Before we do that, one of the really important parts of our podcast here is the whiskey part. So,
Sure.
you and some of your team from Idea Statica recently joined us at SDS2 Summit in Omaha. And again, we'll have a little more conversation about that. But the reason I bring that up is because Idea Statica, the team was nice enough to give me a little gift here, and pretty excited about it. I had to have someone from Idea Statica on the podcast to unbox this. So I think the kind of headquarters for Idea Statica is in the Czech Republic, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yep.
So yeah, we headquartered out of Brno, in the Czech Republic. It's interesting. Yeah, they know that I'm a whiskey drinker. So one of the trips they came over, they brought me a bottle of the same thing.
Goldcock. Same
Goldcock.
thing, Goldcock.
Yeah.
So that was the
And
gift. Yes.
It's when I first had the box, the 13-year-old kid in me kind of chuckled a little bit at the name. But I mean, it's a 20-year-old single malt Czech whiskey. So I did a little bit of research, and it's actually distilled about an hour and a half away from where our office is in the Czech.
Okay. Yeah.
As far as the Czech Republic goes, not necessarily known for whiskey. It's definitely more of a beer, but I'll tell you what, it's not a bad drink.
Okay. Well, it's all in a box and everything yet. I have not opened this, so I thought it would be a great idea to unveil it here on the podcast with Idea Statica, exactly where the whiskey came from. So yeah, and as far as the name goes, it's okay. I agree. 13-year-old kid in me laughs a little bit also. And then I don't know how much you watch the podcast here regularly, but a few episodes back, we had another one about the same. It was called Chicken Cock. So people are going to start thinking like, well, you're kind of a weirdo, David. But I promise I'm not. It's just pure coincidence that two with that in the name would come about here at the similar time. So. Well, I gotta get the plastic and everything off here, so I'm kind of struggling with it a little bit. Yeah. And so you've had this before, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably more of a kind of more scotchy than kind of bourbon or rye, but
okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, and I'm always excited too to try a different variety and have new stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is
And
good.
it's interesting how they came up with the alcohol percentage, because it's 49.2% alcohol.
Okay.
Um, actually, the distillery is at like I think it's latitude 49.2. So that's kind of an
Really?
interesting way to decide how to bottle your
Yeah,
whiskey.
that is. So I find it interesting. The cork is not your typical cork, right? It's
Yeah.
a glass with a little plastic ring on it, so that's
Hmm.
kind of different. Hmm, very cool. Well, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, smells nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Okay. Well, we better try it out
Yeah.
first time. Cheers. Here we go.
Cheers.
I got a lot of ice in my glass today. That is good. Mm, that's very good. Yeah, like you said, a little scotchy.
Yeah.
I
Not
like
sure.
it.
I honestly, I don't think I've seen it in the U.S.
I
Um,
have, yeah, I have not seen it myself anywhere. So yeah.
so I go to the Czech a couple times a year. So if you need anything, just let me know and I can
Le-
pick it up for you.
You're the guy to bring the bottle back. Huh? Yeah. Cool. Well, very good. You know what? Very much appreciated. Thank you. Thank the
Oh, of
team
course.
that thought of me and brought that here. So very much appreciate the gift.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
think talking about the Steel and Whiskey podcast to our folks there, I think they got the hint. So
Yeah, yeah. Apparently they did something right. So yeah, that's good, buddy. So we talked about got our whiskey poured now, we got the drink. Talked about SDS2 Summit. You guys were at SDS2 Summit here a little while back in Omaha. So uh kind of were able to unveil something new and cool and SDS2 related at the summit, right?
right. Yeah, no. So actually just within the last week, we released our version 23.1, and one of the big enhancements for us here in the States is a link to SDS2. So you're
Yeah.
able to um, basically install a plugin when you have IDEA into SDS2, and it allows you to export the model from SDS2 into Checkbot, which is kind of our translator, and then be able to bring connections into IDEA to design the connections.
Hmm.
So that was a huge thing for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know when I came on board, looking at who we linked with. I mean, obviously we're a smaller international company, but we're independent. So we're
Hmm.
not owned by kind of the big four when you look at structural software. So
Hmm.
we try to play nice with everybody.
Yeah.
And the one of the links that I knew we were missing was SDS2.
Mhm.
In fact, the first event that I went to as Idea Statica employee was the summit in Tampa 3 years
Okay.
ago. 3 years ago,
Uh,
2 years ago,
yeah, it would have been 20,
2021.
20. Yeah, 21. That's right. Yeah.
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 So it was funny because had a lot of interest from
Hmm.
the attendees of the conference and the summit, and I was like, yeah, we don't link to it just yet. I know, there'd been conversations prior to me coming on board, and kind of kept moving it down the road.
Hmm.
And finally we met up again at the Steel conference earlier this year and kind of finalized things as far as the API, and
Yeah.
um, have put this link together. So I think it's huge for us because I know we have a bunch of users that use SDS2,
Hmm.
and have been kind of pounding on us to be able to
Yeah. Yeah.
link the
Yeah.
two pieces of software. So no, it's good, and it's definitely something that's been in the works.
Hmm.
And I think it definitely helps our users and helps your users.
Yep.
Steel connection design, for the most part, let's face it, 80% of the connections on a project are simple and easy to do, and you can do those very quickly in SDS2.
Hmm.
Um, there's that other 20% that really not a lot of software can handle. That's
Hmm.
one of the things that we kind of specialize in, is kind of doing those unique things,
Hmm.
um, and being able to save time. I mean, that's the
So,
bottom line.
so tell us a little bit more about how you specialize. So how do you specialize in the unique things, or how do you handle that differently than most, I guess?
Sure. So, I mean, the key thing is that, um, you know, any other connection software is really looking at the code equations in AISC in the manual, and for the most part, automating those.
Hmm.
What we do is a little bit different in that we've decided to go the finite element route.
Hmm.
So this way, we're not necessarily confined or limited by the code equations.
Hmm.
So what we're doing is we're analyzing the model, um, and looking at material properties. So looking at stresses and strains in the materials themselves, um, and then comparing that to the allowables from AISC. Uh, the one nice thing is that right in the manual, if you do some research, and I have a document, basically, if you're going to use finite element analysis for connection design,
Hmm.
that can basically replace all the limit state checks that you're used to doing with
Hmm.
connection design. So that's kind of how we are unique. And you don't have to be a finite element guru to kind of be able to use the software. It's very easy to use. It's really meant for, hey, listen, if I could use it, anybody can use it.
Sure.
Um, when I first was talking to IDEA, downloaded the trial and I was playing with it for about a half an hour. And my opinion was just, this is something special. It's something that, is different in the industry, and projects just keep getting more and more complex, and schedules keep getting shorter and shorter. So,
Yeah.
that's where we kind of live, for the most part, kind of working on those kind of unique types of scenarios.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So how long has idea been around?
So idea's been around since, kind of 2009.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
you know, the software has been around for about 10 or 12 years, as
Okay.
far as for the steel connection design. Really focused on, Europe, the Middle East, and kind of built there. Been in the US for about 5 years. For
Okay.
about 2.5 years prior to me coming on board, we were just using a reseller.
Hmm.
With the ultimate goal, the understanding was that to really be taken seriously in the US, you need to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to
Yep.
kind of plant your flag and kind of show that. So,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I did. I was handed the flag and planted it here,
Okay.
and starting to kind of build up our user base.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. And I mean, 5 years, I assume, sounds like seems like you must be having some level of success at least, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah, we have a lot of, um, structural engineering firms. Yeah, the big names, everybody knows, they've had a license for years before. They predate me.
Hmm.
And not quite, kind of understanding how they use it, but we've kind of been focusing on the real, the players in the industry, as far as detailers, connection engineers, fabricators, um, and really kind of talking to them about connection design. So, I mean, in the 2.5 years since I came on board, we've basically quadrupled the number of users,
Wow.
in the US. So I think, the biggest part for us is just getting the word out and letting people know that we exist.
Yeah.
Um, and that there's a solution out there for that stuff that they're pulling their hair out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, where's the name? Is there like a story behind the name Idea Statica? What's the
I don't know.
You don't
um,
know? Okay.
I know Statica is basically like structure in
Uh-huh.
in Czech. Um, and I know that there's a background. I can't remember it right now. But yeah, there was a background. I mean, basically, our founder, he's been in structural software for, you know almost 40 years,
Sure.
um, and kind of worked for different, kind of had his own solver.
Mhm. Mhm.
I believe he actually worked at Nemetschek for a while, um,
That's
and
the
then
story I'm told, yes. Yeah.
yeah, and then kind of decided he wanted to go back out on his own, and kind of looked at it and said, you know what, there are too many general analysis, softwares out there.
Yeah.
But really saw a need that, that structural details is really where, he felt he could have an impact.
Mhm.
So started with steel connection design, and we've been chugging along with that for quite a while. Starting to do a little bit of concrete design as well.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, really kind of focusing on those unique situations that are coming up more and more every day. So
Yeah. Okay, very cool. So let's talk a little bit about SDS2 again and the
Mhm.
link there. So I believe my understanding is that you're actually you're pulling information out of the SDS2 model, right? So you're
correct.
pulling probably like your main structural members. So if you grab a joint, might include bracing, beams, columns, right? So you're pulling that main joint information out. And then do you take like if there's connection material there that the user created or SDS2 designed, are you taking that material and all the bolts, holes, welds and all that, you're pulling that across as well?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Okay.
that's getting all read in, and then once you have it in idea, yeah, let's say you have, you can either select a portion of the model, the entire model. If you just want to look at one joint, you can kind of isolate that and just bring that over.
Hmm.
Um, so then once you have all that information in, you can go into um, the connection software, and it'll
Hmm.
kind of be bringing in all that geometry, all those materials, bolts, welds, um, and then you just have to apply your loads to it
Hmm.
and run the analysis, and
Okay.
then kind of see how it works.
Okay.
Um,
Cool. And so that, yeah, so that's really cool for because you mentioned it. So SDS2 is great, um, at that 80%. We'll absolutely get you 80% of the way there with designing all the stuff, run through all the checks and everything. But then that 20% is not quite as automated. There's
right.
still some automation in there. We can build anything, but once you start building it in SDS2, then we don't have the tools to necessarily check that final 20%. So
Right. Right.
this is a great partnership to, hey, automate the 80% really, really fast, really great in your detailing software. Where we can't, you can build it and then send it over to run through the checks and such in Idea Statica. So good. It's a really great welcome addition to our user base and what can be offered to them. So it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Now, do we send, so can you build a connection? Can you build a connection in Idea Statica and send it to SDS2, or are we quite to that level yet?
Not quite to that level yet.
Not yet. Okay.
We've kind of, that's always the question we get all the time is, well,
Yeah.
how can I send it back into detailing software, SDS2, whatever.
Hmm.
And what we found is that talking to some detailers and engineers, they don't necessarily need the connection completely to go back to the detailing package.
Hmm.
If they have something that they can reference to kind of either modify the connection they already built, or build it from scratch, that's kind of what we were told they wanted.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
with this latest version now, you actually can export an IFC file of the connection.
Okay.
So this way you can bring an IFC file in and use that as a reference, but still use all your regular SDS2 tools to build up the connection within the model.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, the IFC is a welcome addition too, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Very cool. Okay. So tell me a little bit about, well, we talked about you being at Summit. So what was your experience? Well, you've been here several years to the
Yeah.
Summit now. So third, I think, is this your third that you've been to now?
Yeah. That was
Yep.
our third. Unfortunately, I didn't get to it. I couldn't attend last year because I had a vacation planned at the same time. And
Yep.
frankly, I was going to Maui instead of San Antonio.
You know what? Vacation, work. I don't blame you for taking the
Yeah.
vacation route. So yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but no, I mean, so like I said, we've been to the summit 3 years now in a
Uh-huh.
row.
Yep.
Um, I think, one, it's our target audience.
Yeah.
Detailers, engineers, and really everybody's very welcoming, very open. Everybody's kind of walking around. I mean, as a vendor, we do a lot of conferences, a lot of
Sure.
shows, um, and it's just always very comfortable at SDS2 at the summit. Obviously I've known you guys for a while with SidePlate and everything. I know different people for a while. It's just everybody kind of comes around. You get to talk to people, and it's really a value from the vendor standpoint to come to the summit. For us, not to mention, we learn more about you guys. And kind of what you're planning, and it kind of helps us kind of understand the industry and kind of where the industry is kind of going to be going. And learn things. It's just a nice educational time. I mean, I know we had a couple of our Czech colleagues over, and they went to sessions all day, every day. So it was, it's really a great experience and well worth the effort to go.
Good. Very good to hear. Always love to hear the positive feedback. So I'm sure there's always negative, but let's not talk about the negative on the show in the public, right? Yeah. So well, I guess you've been to 2. So what had you been to Omaha before? It's Maui. It's not Maui, but it's all right, I guess. Yeah.
No, I saw I had never been to Omaha before.
Okay.
It was actually really good. Really nice city. We walked around quite a bit. A couple of the nights. Got to visit some restaurants, some breweries, and even a distillery or two. So it was it was a good experience. I think overall we all had a good time.
Yeah, very good, very good. So there's another thing about Idea Statica that really interests me in particular. I saw something recently about a connection library.
Right.
What's the connection library all about? I was very intrigued when I saw that. So what's that all about?
Sure. So connection library, we started about 2 years ago, and it was within the software. So, when you open up the standalone version, we have a wizard to kind of help you build. There's certain configurations and certain standard connections that you can use there. And we had some other pre-installed connections that necessarily weren't in the wizard, but that you could apply to a joint that we had kind of developed. The first phase of that was also to allow people to save their own connections into their own personal library. So this way, it allowed them to, if an engineer's working with a fabricator and they always want to use 7/8 inch bolts, whatever those little things that they want to always do, they could save they could save their typical connections there, and then just be able to apply them very quickly to joints and do it that way. So that was a private. We set up a company library. So anybody on that user group, like anybody that was using that license, they would be able to share connections among themselves. And those were all saved in the cloud on our server. So that worked really well. And the next step of that was what we call web connection library. So this is something that's actually on our website. Basically, we have a viewer that we've had for a while that, anybody that doesn't have IDEA can open an IDEA file in this viewer on our website and be able to see the details of the connection. Be able to see plate dimensions, weld sizes, all that good stuff. And we have a lot of connections that get pushed that way. So what we thought is, we have all this information. How can we kind of use it to help engineers, regardless of whether they're IDEA users or not? So we started this web connection library. So it's on our website. You put in the geometry of the joint that you're looking for, and then it'll hit search, and it'll go through all of those connections that were shared with on the viewer, which are currently about 400,000 different connection types from around the world.
Wow.
And kind of give you different options for it. So it's really kind of a inspirational tool, kind of giving you conceptual idea of the connections. And then again, just recently now, let's say that you are an IDEA user and you kind of find this connection that you want to use, you can now open that directly into the desktop software. So this way, you basically have 400,000 sample projects that you can use now to kind of help with your connection design. So definitely a unique kind of a crowdsourced conceptual connection
Hmm.
engine, basically.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
that's a pretty powerful deal. So yeah, impressive, impressive. So very cool. What else? What else do I need to know about idea? Yeah, I mean, we're,
Yeah, I mean, so
we're
you know, I think sometimes there can be, being a European-based company, which we kind of know about a little
I
bit.
yep, I
There,
understand. I
there
understand.
there tends to be some trepidation as far as tech support and everything, and that's the one thing that we've done is we've built the entire team here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So tech support, sales, marketing is all based here.
Hmm.
Um, to kind of help our users, be on the same time zones and all those good things. We're constantly looking to innovate. You know, we're exploring how we can potentially incorporate AI
Hmm.
into the software to kind of again help the engineer do more mundane tasks
Hmm.
or come up with some conceptual ideas. I don't think it's ever going to be a case where you push a button and the software is going to pump out the connection for you.
Sure. Yeah.
There's always got to be engineering judgment,
Hmm.
but we're constantly kind of looking on how to innovate next,
Yeah. Yeah.
and kind of be on that leading edge. So
Hmm.
that's
Very cool.
yeah. I mean, we just had the release last week, so now we're already starting to talk about version 24, which will be out in April.
Right.
Kind of what types of things we can do there, as well as things that are still getting worked on that are going to get released between now and then. So
Hmm. Hmm. How does your release cycle work? Do you have like a couple releases a year? Like, are you on a set schedule? I'm always curious how the different software companies decide their cycle, or not necessarily decide, but I'm always very curious, like how their cycle goes and how that works for them, why they choose to do it that way. How's yours work, I
sure.
guess?
Yeah. So I mean, so we do two major releases a year. So
Hmm.
April and October.
Okay.
So, like April will be, next April will be version 24.
Hmm.
Next October will be 24.1.
Got
Um,
it.
but in the meantime, we're doing, hot fixes,
Sure.
more minor enhancements, probably at least on a monthly basis.
Okay.
So it's constantly getting updated and improved. I mean, that's the one thing with any piece of software. It's never going to be perfect, right? You're always kind of improving it.
Yeah.
There's always something else that you want to be able to do, right?
Yeah. So I enjoy hearing that from other software companies all the time, because just we get hit with it all the time, and it's the same for everybody. It's
Yeah.
no different, but and I've always had conversations with people, and they will, well, when is it going to be perfect? Can't you just make it perfect? And it's like, well, if it's perfect, if it was perfect, I wouldn't sell it to you. I would be using it myself and basically printing money, and you'd be out of a
Right.
job. So so,
Exactly.
software is a funny thing, because it's never done. It's never
Right.
done. There's always something that's going to be better, that we can improve on. There's always new technology that we'll be able to utilize and build. You mentioned AI, so there's always going to be new stuff that we can do to innovate and make it better, and improve our users' efficiency, things like that. So
Right.
I always enjoy those conversations. They can be pretty funny,
Yeah.
especially when you get people from outsider who doesn't understand, like, necessarily a lot of how, like, development and such works.
Sure.
It's always fun to have those conversations, and educate them a little bit on how things actually work, and why
Yeah.
they work the way that they do. So yeah, yeah. I'm sure you experience very
Oh
similar
yeah.
things as well, huh?
No, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, every time I've been in software now for a while, and you know, you solve the problem that somebody's been harping on you for, rightly so, for multiple years, and you finally give them that, and they're like, that's nice, but what about this? And
Yeah.
there's always going to be the next step. So and that's just kind of how you have to kind of look at it. That
Yep.
it's never going to be finished, and just move on to the next task.
Yep. Yeah. Our sales guys are the worst. You give them a feature they've been begging for, and then well, great, but you didn't do this thing. Such is the world we live in, I suppose.
Yep,
Right?
exactly.
Fix one thing, on to the next, and ever evolving. Always
Right.
continue to learn, continue to evolve, and yeah. So
Yeah.
very good. And I'm curious, did you tell us where are you based out of in the U.S. here?
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
sure you
So
mentioned that earlier.
sorry. So
No, that's all right.
we're based outside of Philadelphia. So
Oh,
that's
you're
just kind of
outside.
where our headquarters are. But we do have people all around the country.
Okay, so you're kind of scattered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of scattered around. We have people in Chicago, Denver, Dallas. Gonna have somebody in Miami in the near future here. So
Okay.
kind of spreading out so we can be in the regions, be close to people, be able to go meet people face to face.
Yep.
Attend different conferences, and just kind of get the word out there, and then also help the users as we need to. So
Right. Yeah. What's the next big conference coming up for you guys? Anything
uh
coming up soon, or?
yeah, so you have the NCSEA Structural Engineering Summit.
Mhm.
That's going to be at Disneyland next week.
Oh, there you
Um,
go. Okay,
so
that'll be fun.
yeah,
Well,
so it's that's kind of the last big one of the year. So
yeah. I suppose we're getting into the slow time of the year for conferences and such, with Thanksgiving and all the holidays, New Year
right,
coming up here, right? It's
yeah,
kind of tends to slow down a little bit. So, well, as does most stuff this time of year.
right,
So, yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else we need to know? I appreciate you coming on here. This was very, very educational. I learned a little bit about Idea Statica here today. So, we've been working together here a little bit on that integration and making that work.
Yeah.
So, appreciate all you guys have been doing here. Appreciate the gift, the whiskey.
Absolutely.
It's delicious. So, um, yeah, appreciate you being on the podcast here. It's been enjoyable. And yeah, I look forward to making this relationship and this partnership work down the road, and
Absolutely.
maybe we can see some more stuff. Like we said, it's never done, right? So that integration
Exactly.
might
So there's always
get better and
be
better all the time.
improvement. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Very good. So,
No, thanks for having me. I
yeah.
appreciate it.
Absolutely, Dave. I appreciate it. And I guess one last cheers, and we'll see
Cheers.
everybody. Yep. See everybody next time on Steel and Whiskey.